Okay, so now in part three, we will have kind of looked at some of the factors that were kind of working in the background to kind of mess things up at subud in the organization. We'll just kind of look at those early days and discuss, briefly what was kind of the dynamic that was going on there, and in a kind of simple way why it was going on. So, it was a tremendous gift from God, and most everybody, many people were aware of it and were just very grateful and just loved what God was doing, which was basically, instead of just throwing us out because we were so messed up, our bodies, a 50,000-year-old, thing of the ancestors and the body with so many errors and things out of place, and forces ruling in man, and all kinds of things. Instead of just throwing it out, the Almighty said, allowed that we could stay on, and he would rehabilitate us. He would rejuvenate us from within. He would fix things. In other words, your heart would go to its right place. Your forces would be put in the right place. Your being would be cleansed, purified. Your heart would become more pure, along with everything else. So, a kind of a complete restoration of becoming a true human being, while at the same time you were busy having a normal life, going to the office, working at the car wash, running your businesses, if you were an entrepreneur, and just and having a wife and kids, and or a husband and kids, and visiting, just having a normal life, but twice a week. It was amazing. It was an amazing thing, a wonderful thing, and people were very enthusiastic, and the movement spread and it grew, and there were all kinds of people, young people, old people. I mean, the variety of people was just kind of stunning, because you don't realize it, but I mean, or maybe you do. Normally, you kind of hang birds of a feather kind of thing. You hang with a certain kind of people, and every now and then there are other people come in and you say, well, of course I'm open-minded, but on the whole though, you're not having a mixture of philosophies, from fanatical religious philosophies to complete denial of the whole spectrum, all coming together in one place, having the power of God work on them, and they would all get along. Mostly they would all get along. I mean, in a rather spectacular way. I mean, because we were bonded by this thing that was happening to all of us, and unifying. I remember in LA in 66 and 67, I remember that when we did Lanihan, when we exercised downtown in the big hall, it wasn't as if, we were like one. We were actually experiencing being one. It wasn't all printed out, you were one, but it was like you experienced it. And so you could hear someone talking over across the room, and you just felt like you were just, I don't know, you can't describe it. I mean, it was like you were one with them. I mean, you were like, we were all one big one. And that was a wonderful kind of thing to be in. And then I remember, after a couple of years, it went away. So there was a separation. I don't know, nobody remarked on it. I noticed it for sure. Lots of enthusiasm. Lots of, as a new organization, a lot of goals, a lot of things, things people want to do. Start enterprises, help the poor, start for finances, start a bank, all kinds of things. We were going to bud and grow into a successful part of the world. And there's a lot of noise, and Shubi was coming around, an incredible experience when he was around. He would just go into another place, and he would do ladihans and give talks and do testing, and it was all quite wonderful. That was a good side. So nobody was, and then also the dynamic of it was that Subi said, well, and Gabriel had sent a message from the Almighty to him that, how we should, what our attitude should be, that we should, because a lot of people got very concerned because they realized they were awakened and they were reminded inwardly by inner process of mistakes they'd made. They kind of conveniently sort of forgot about it, buried it all, come out and go, they have tremendous remorse, all kinds of things. So the angel delivered the message from the Almighty that subud members shouldn't be concerned about what had happened in the past, but that they should just work at doing better now and not doing those things they did in the past. Reforming this, but concentrating on doing the best they could going forward. And they're also not to try and win, be number one, or not to try and be number one socially. They were, I don't remember for sure, there was 5 things. Don't compete, in other words, or don't, I think, and there was some other, don't criticize, don't gossip, don't humiliate other people. More or less, most of these, they were in the 5 things. And if you trick them up, and of course they make perfect sense. So that was the way forward, and people took those up, and of course that helped her with their attitude. They didn't get all caught up and hung up in the past. Besides, it was hard to get, because you were going through stuff all the time, and inwardly you were going through things. Life was pretty interesting, exciting. Subi was coming. He said, if a third of the world joined subud and worshipped God like that, it would change everything, and that the world would go in the right direction. So it was a lot of hope, and we were strong communities all over the world. We saw each other, a lot, and we visited with each other outside of the times when we had the exercise, which was twice a week, usually at night. When it's quieter, the atmosphere is quieter. Generally, 8:30, 9 o'clock. And, it was all good. for the early first years, but um, but behind the scenes, things were not all as bright and happy as they appeared to be, because of the things I mentioned, because of the mischief caused by testing and the way the organization was set up. Now, and also because we weren't getting, after the first initial enthusiasm and rush of people to get in, so we said about 1 million people were opened, which of course is still a small fraction of the population. At the time was around 6 million or something, 7 million maybe. Still a small fraction of the earth, but still pretty big. He had said something. He said you shouldn't advertise, you shouldn't proselytize this thing. It would have to spread by word of mouth. People would see you, see that you were having a good life, and they would, and how you were, and how your character was good, and so forth and so on, and that you would, when things were going well, and they would want to have a part of that. But coming back to my main point, he also said that you shouldn't criticize each other, because he said, well, to criticize each other, human beings don't like it when you criticize them, because it's actually very difficult to be a human being, and they have enough things going on, and then you come along and criticize them, and they don't like it. It's like a burden, and now they have to carry on something else, so they generally don't respond well to criticism. And but then later he amended it and said, well, you have constructive criticism, but the die was cast, so whatever would happen, nobody would criticize it. And that was a good thing transformationally. I mean, that was good not to be caught up in the kind of routine that generally human beings have on the earth, where the devils or the satanic beings, that is, who run people, are always, anything you do that's human, or a lot of things you do that's human, they laugh at it, they think it's funny, and they try to put you down. Oh, you're just silly. Oh, that's stupid what you did. Or why did you do this? This is ridiculous. They would. The huge culture of thing in the culture of putting people down and criticizing each other and stuff like that. Kindness is the kind of stupid thing to be kind. There are all kinds of things going on. So this nipped a lot of it in the bud, so it was good. But then people, I remember at first when I was there, we had different races, a lot of African Americans, a lot of people from the Latin countries, Europeans, just all over the world except for Russia, where they couldn't get into Russia. They did later. And China, which they couldn't get into China either. The way the countries were set up, you couldn't do it. I don't know, I never heard of a Chinese group. There probably are some, I haven't heard of them, no. Or I probably got over there, but no, we never heard anything about it. And there were newspapers, the usual kind of excitement about the early days, and thousands of people would show up when Bapak would come. They wouldn't come to the Lodian. There would be like 200 or 300 down in LA, something like that. You would show up regularly every Monday and Thursday at for the 8:30 or 9 o'clock Lodian. I forget when it was. The men would do it in one big hall, and they had 2 halls there, and one above the other. The women would do it upstairs in the smaller but adequate hall. Then afterwards we would talk, and we would come have chat with each other, and some of us would stay quite a while, and others would rush off after after the lighting hours, they had to, or very shortly after, because they had to go home. We used to all go to a restaurant and have dessert and talk and things like that. So you can see, and then across the city in LA, it was like in Hollywood. You would run into stupid people all the time. We would go and have coffee and talk and have discuss things and so on. It was the halcyon days of subud in the late 60s. But then, the more, less established type of people would, we had a guy, I remember, a philosopher. He was a very brainy, he's a philosopher guy, but he was an actual kind of philosopher guy, very literate, knew a lot of stuff. One day he wasn't there anymore, and then the Latinos suddenly, over a period of a year or two, they kind of dropped away. And then the African Americans, a couple of them stayed, but mostly they there weren't too many, and they dropped away. We didn't have the Asian race, except for Hussein Chung, who was a special case. Hussein had a terrific development, and Sui actually told him once that he should be a guru. And he was a guru for a while. Had a place called the Human Institute. Instigated a program there, which is quite dynamic, and but the die was cast because so in the end you had this sort of and then there were a lot of wealthy people. But when we started having enterprises, a lot of people had some real money, and there were people who were just dirt poor. Just could barely. They had to be. They could barely get to the exercise and couldn't dress themselves very well and stuff. Hippies, just a vast array. It was marvelous. Students. Some actors and actresses came in from Hollywood. Steve Allen was the one who got opened. Peter Mark Richmond. So on, different people. Mimes, comics. So yeah, it was a big deal. But people started to kind of drop out. They wouldn't say anything, they just would, one day they wouldn't be there anymore. And then gradually over the years, it went from being, I don't know, a couple 100,000 people and growing to being 30,000 people in the world and not growing. And now, just recently, the Santa Cruz group were getting together. They had the national chairman there because they decided whether to sell the property or not, because they only had 6 members. They're all getting, most of them are getting old. And so I'm here to discuss and tell you why that happened. It's quite a story. And I think it just tires me out even to think about it. I think, so I'll stop this. This will be part 3. We're going to kind of, as they say, unpack this whole thing. And you know, as a concise way as possible. I don't want to make this something that goes on and on and on. I want it to be short and concise and to the point. It tires me out to even think about it, all the stuff that happened. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this here, and I'm going to regroup, and I'm going to start to tell you what I saw happening, and give an explanation and clarification, you know, as best I can, you know, from what I saw and what I understood and what I was guided to see. Because I got a gift. I was super minded from the beginning, from the time I was opened. It was just a gift that was given to me. So I was always kind of just aware of the group and was kind of looking to see, having a drive to know what was happening, how things were coming along. So you might say, oh, you were nosy, is that what you're saying? No, but I wasn't. I just had a natural inclination, you know, in moderation. So I was talking to people about, you know, different things that had to do with the growth and the health of subud. And well, I had thought that everyone felt the same way I did, which, as you know, that happens, you project. But it turned out later, I found out, well, hardly anybody was paying any attention to it. There were some, sure, but not many. They would say, oh yeah, I come to my body hum, and blah, and 7, 8, blah, do that. But they weren't really looking, monitoring, or witnessing the whole thing and being concerned about or responsible for it when things started to go very gradually. Well, maybe not so gradually, but you know, it took a long time, 50 years, 40 years. Well, I think you know, after Subi died in '87. There was still a lot of people in Subi, but then gradually it kind of started to you know, as many groups do. You mentioned, well, it's just another one of those things that flourished and then died out, a passing phase. No, well, yeah, it looks like that. It's acting like that. But I'm here to tell you the reasons why that happened. Wonderful gift from God for mankind. Now you have very few people who, you know, relatively speaking, I mean, 30,000 people is still a lot of people, but very few people in the world who even have ever heard of it or know anything about it. Anyway, I'm feeling tired, so I'm going to stop this, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to roll up my sleeves, and we're going to talk about what happened. Okay, I hope you're having a good evening, and I'll see you in the next video.